Survival Radio Network. Thank you for helping us to reach over 2 million downloads. You're listening to The Paula G Show, where we expand the mindset through worldwide conversations. Don't forget, you can check out our previous episodes of our radio and TV shows by visiting my website at www.paulagvoice.com, or you can log on to thepaulagshow.com and scroll to The Paula G Show for the most recent episode or for any episode that you wish to listen to. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at The Paula G Show and other social media platforms. And also, much love to B Ferg for the opening and closing theme music for The Paula G Show. B Ferg has been hooking us up for the last few years, and we certainly appreciate him. And you can find his music on Spotify and iTunes. You know, I always tell you all what, time is precious. It is the one thing that you cannot get back. So for you to think it not robbery to spend just a little bit of your time with me is truly appreciated. I always strive each and every week to produce a quality show so that you can come away after an hour of listening to the Paula G Show and say, you know what, I learned something this evening. I got educated this evening. The guest dropped some knowledge on me this evening. I got some nuggets of wisdom this evening, or this afternoon, or this morning, whenever you are listening to the Paula G Show. So thank you all so very much. I also want to give a shout out to the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. You can visit their website, nbrhof.com. We recently had an appreciation here in the Atlanta area for some of the icons and the legends in black radio. And when I tell you that room was just full of history, it was really, really full of history. You know what they say, you gotta know where you came from, you gotta know where you come from, you gotta understand where you come from in order to know where it is that you're going. So shouts out to all of them, as well as my engineer this evening, riding shotgun, is Mr. Mark Garrison. I always appreciate him. We had a great time last weekend, I believe it was, at the photo shoot, Pop Op ATL. Shouts out to Park and Alexander and the other photographers that were there as well. And also have to give some love to my engineer, Mike Barnes. He's out on daddy duty, and hopefully he'll pop back with us sometime in the near future. Right now, he is on daddy duty. All right, well, my guests are in studio with me this evening, and I'm so excited to have these young ladies. Anytime we have new members to the Survival Radio Network family, we want to give them some love and we want to welcome them. So these ladies are co-hosting a new show right here on Survival Radio Network. It is entitled Good Grief, Girl. Dr. Chenee, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I did not, she'll correct me. Gilbert, she's an author. She's an educator, and she has over 20 years of experience with young people. She is the founder of Soul Deep Services, and she's here to share with us this evening. And also, Kierra Sunae Taplin is here with us. She is a grief coach, and she is a leader in the infant loss community, and she advocates for maternal birth and bereavement rights while sharing highs and lows of healing after infant loss, which is huge. These ladies are here with us on the Paula G Show. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Please welcome my guests this evening, Chenee and Kierra. Ladies, welcome. And welcome to Survival Radio Network, where we, believe it or not, do radio. How are you?
Hi, Paula. Thank you for having us.
I am so happy to have you. And before we go any further, make sure that I pronounce your names correctly. Did I pronounce your names correctly?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
Oh, awesome.
Yay. We understand the challenge.
You know, I usually try to get it ahead of time, but it doesn't quite always work out for me. So we got lucky this time. But ladies, first of all, welcome to Survival Radio Network, my new sisters in radio. So happy to have you all, in the fold and on the journey of sharing your platform and just sharing knowledge, educating individuals and encouraging them and so forth. So before we get to the show, I want you ladies, and Chenee, you can go first, and then Kierra, to share with us a bit about your platform. Chenee, the Soul Deep Services, and Kierra, Healing Footprints. So Chenee, you can go first. Did I lose my ladies?
Is she on?
Did we lose?
Kierra's here.
Okay. All right. Kierra, go ahead, and maybe we'll get Chenee back. We might have some technical difficulties in the green room, but go ahead and share with us a little bit about it.
Yes, so Healing Footprints Foundation is an organization that was founded. It's a true labor of love that I created in response to one of the most traumatic events of my entire life. Shortly after my husband and I got married, we found out that I was pregnant. It was my first pregnancy. Of course, we were newlyweds, so it was supposed to be my fairy tale dream come true. However, my pregnancy took a tragic turn around 6 months, and I ended up giving birth to my son prematurely. He was extremely tiny when he was born, and of course, there are some complications that come with premature birth. And he did survive for 7 days, and then he passed away. And that day, that entire ordeal completely changed my life. And I went into a couple of years of true grief and mourning. And throughout that time, I think I was trying to find my way or find a way to cope. And one day, God presented to me I'm what I think is a true visionary, and I receive very clear and precise visions from God. And the vision for Healing Footprints was very vivid. It was not something that I actually imagined. It wasn't something that I had planned on doing, but God gave me a very clear vision for the organization. And the motivation that I was given is that my personal healing was wrapped up into the work that I was being called to do. And I created this organization that filled in a lot of the gaps that my husband and I experienced when we went through our process. And some of the services that the organization provides is that we provide guidance when it comes to, what decisions do you make when it comes to burials of babies, or, is it your responsibility? Who pays for it? Who do you call? If you've never experienced child death or infant death, you honestly don't know what to do. And at that time for us, there were very few resources. So I created an organization to respond to that gap. So we provide assistance, not just guidance, but actual financial assistance for infant burials. We purchase headstones for unmarked infant graves. And then we provide grief support. And I think that's extremely important, because what happens is if you don't resolve your grief or attack or confront your grief, it actually becomes unresolved. And here you are 10, 15 years later trying to figure out why you're bitter or why you have marital problems. And a lot of times it's because you have this grief that you've suppressed and you haven't responded to. So that's the bulk or the main objective of the organization, is to address that unresolved grief.
Wow, that it must have been a bittersweet, for lack of a better term, challenge to process through yourself while at the same time helping others.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a fair statement?
That was one of the responses that I didn't expect to get much out of it. And you hear people say, you feel better when you help people, and it seems kind of cliche until you actually do it. And it's like, oh my God, I set out to help them, but I got so much more in return. And that's what started happening for me. The more I shared my story, because I tend to share from my heart, I lead with my heart. So when I'm engaging with families, although there are some textbook rules or guidelines to follow. I share my true experience and how I felt about it and how my family responded and how it affected my marriage. So the more I did that, the better I felt. And I honestly found my healing in serving others.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. That's because, like you said, sometimes it sounds cliche-ish. But until you go through the process, and I always believe that until someone has walked in your shoes, they can't truly take that journey with you. Take that, that journey.
I agree.
Yeah, they can't truly take that journey of healing with you.
Yeah.
You and your husband, of course, had some challenges during that time period. What type of or what kind of advice could you give to couples who are struggling with the loss of a child?
I would definitely say to be honest, one, with yourself about how you feel and the impact that it's having on you personally. And I think it's also important to give your spouse room to grieve their own way. My husband and I had two completely different experiences, and we responded to the grief totally different. For my husband, he immediately went back to work. And I later learned that he felt that he needed to be strong for me. So he showed very little emotion. And it actually made me a little resentful. And it took me years to even admit to him that I was resentful because I felt like he wasn't hurting the way that I was hurting. But in all honesty, he was just dealing with his grief the way that he could. So I think it's important for couples to give each other space to do that. And then one day, my husband and I had a real heart-to-heart. Because like I said, we were newlyweds. So I think it put us in an unfair place because that whole honeymoon period that you have in relationships, ours was clouded by grief. So we never actually got a chance to bond the way I feel we could have had we not had this tragedy, overshadowing our relationship. So one day we actually had a real heart-to-heart and realized that we both became afraid to love each other because we didn't want to lose each other. So that became a huge part of our relationship, that we were actually just afraid to fall deeper in love because we were afraid of losing each other. And that, I think, coming to a place where we were able to be honest with each other and state how we felt and what we needed is when our relationship started to shift. So I would tell couples to definitely be honest about your feelings. And I am a huge proponent of marriage counseling. We did marriage counseling, which was a huge help for us.
Wow, Kierra, that is huge. And what you shared in regard to how he was handling the grief differently, attempting to be strong for you, but your perception of it, and how that manifested, and then being afraid to love it. Oh my gosh, being afraid to love each other for fear of that loss.
And then I can recall the day that I was able to verbalize that's how I felt. It was such a huge weight lifted off me because I don't know if you've ever, and I think this is one of the side effects of unresolved grief is that you start to pile on, because as you experience life happens to you. So things start to pile on and you tend to lose sight of what's really bothering you. So, we're arguing because we're out too late or, I wanted to go out with my girlfriends. We appear to be arguing about that, but really we're arguing because I just don't want to love you deeply. So when we came to that realization, it was life-changing for our relationship by far.
Wow. You just helped somebody with that. You helped somebody in a big way with that. How can the audience stay connected with you? I want to make sure we get that in before we talk with Chenee.
Yeah, so the organization is healingfootprintsfoundation.com. That's our website. And I'm available on Instagram, Kierra Sunae, and that's KIERRASUNAE. That's my Instagram handle. Those are great ways to contact me. And, of course, my business phone is 404-520-7519. I actually do a lot of counseling and coaching, and I keep in contact with the families. Just 2 days ago, I had a mom that I coached 3 years ago, and she sent me pictures of her new baby. So I keep in contact with my families, and we create bonds. So I'm available late at night. I understand how grief works. We tend to have a lot of those thoughts late at night when the world is quiet. That's why I give out my phone number, because then that's when I'm available. If you want to text or give me a call, I generally respond.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And we're going to come back to you in a little bit. Chenee?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Share with us a bit about your Soul Deep services and how that came about.
Yes. Again, thank you for having me, first of all. My journey with grief came about first in 94. That's the year I lost my mother to cancer. I was 19 years old at the time, and she was only 44. So years later, I'm an educator by trade. So years later, teaching in an inner city public school system, I encountered 3 male students in the year of 2007 that kept pushing my buttons. I taught 4th grade that year. And it just kept pushing my buttons. And I don't know why this year was any different, because I've always had a behavior problem year after year. But this time I just couldn't take it anymore. So I delved a little deeper.
They found your last nerve.
Oh, my goodness. It's like, what gives? Like, y'all, you wake up like this every morning to do what? So
for real.
I conference with their family members, and then that's when I discovered the why that got to the root. One of my students, I overheard him talking about his mom, and I was like, I'll call him P. I said, P never discussed his mom. He was being raised by his grandmother. He knew about his dad. His dad was incarcerated for the rest of his life. He knew about his dad. His uncle lived in a home, but the uncle worked a lot, so it was really just he and his grandmother. And I was like, I never heard P talk about his mom, and we would draw these little demonic faces, and I was like, So I conferenced with her and told him that the stories that I heard P saying, she said, no, those aren't true. His mom died giving birth to him. And I said, really? She's like, yes. And so I'm looking at her like, why you all never told him the truth? He's making up his stories. This was 4th grade. And so, so I was like, okay, that's why he's doing what he's doing. My second student had a dad who was in a mental institution, and he and his sister, the mom never took he and his sister to go and visit him. I was like, okay. And then my third student had an uncle who was a drug addict. And from time to time when they were on the school bus, they would see this uncle walking the street, but the uncle wasn't allowed to come around the family because of his issues. So that's when it clicked. They're acting out in my room because you all haven't taken the time to discuss these instances with them. And they didn't know how to channel that. It came out negatively in my class, but you didn't give them an opportunity to discuss how this affected them. And so being that I lost someone very special, mind you, I just discussed 3 different forms of grief. And that was the key is grief comes in many forms. It's just not related to death. And by me teaching in the inner city schools, they are faced, well, we all are faced with some form of grief on a weekly basis or monthly basis, but they really see a lot. And they had never heard the word grief. So this prompted me to turn my journal, because when my mother passed away, I didn't talk to anyone. I kept my feelings to myself, and I instead wrote in a journal. So I turned my journal into my first children's book, Mama, Did You Mean to Leave So Soon? And in there, I discussed the times we shared, things I remembered or like, up until she got sick. And then, you know, Daddy told me you went to heaven because your body grew tired. And then I discussed 3 different things I did to help me process. And those 3 different things were writing, crying tears of joy, and talking. And those are 3 healthy coping strategies that I put in the book on purpose because I wanted to introduce healthy coping strategies. Our kids aren't taught that.
Yeah.
You know, and I say our kids, most kids of the urban communities aren't taught healthy coping strategies to help them process anger, frustration, sadness. They're not taught that. So what do they do instead? They suppress it. And then what do they do from there? They act out in our classrooms.
Right. Because
so from there, I was like, okay, I felt God put that mission upon me to begin educating our youth on what grief meant, first of all, the different forms that come in, and healthy coping strategies. So once I read my book, I gave each of my 3 male students a copy. I read my book as a whole to the class, and once they understood what grief meant, then everybody's hands shot up trying to give me examples of a grief, some type of form of grief that occurred in their family. And so I also went over different coping strategies, and they were smart students. I was like, do you like to draw? Do you like to paint? Do you like to sing? Do you like to dance? Who likes karate so you can exert that type of energy out there? You know, who likes to dance? You know, who likes to write poetry? You know, different things to help you process, and they're not taught that. So I figured, why not teach? We don't need another angry black male, black kid, period, in our society. We don't need another person going postal. We don't need anyone contemplating suicide. We don't need any more bullying. Why not teach them coping strategies and different triggers so that when they know they're feeling a certain emotion, hey, I learned this. Let me try this. Let me count backwards from 10. Let me go and punch a pillow. You know, let me go and breathe in and out. You know, teach them. Just like we teach them respect and manners, we have to teach them different strategies as well.
And that is so true because, you know, and what you just said was just so huge, both of you, because, you know, we were coming off of a generation and generations for a variety of reasons that did not acknowledge the feelings, nor did they allow, you know, us as children, some family members, to express whatever it was that we were feeling. It, in some instances, like you said, what wasn't even acknowledged. So as a child, when you have these feelings, you don't, because they're not being acknowledged by the people that you look up to, you then begin to feel some kind of way about yourself, that something's wrong with you because you're feeling this feeling that basically is not supposed to exist because nobody's acknowledging that you're feeling it in the first place.
Right, because grief was never discussed in my home. Was it discussed in your home?
And how that manifests, you know, how that and you know what you were saying earlier, Kierra, about, you know, you and your husband when you're arguing about being out late. It wasn't even about being out late.
No,
you know,
not at all.
Feeling about the layers. You know, it was about, like you said, being afraid to love each other. So, you know, what you both share in this platform is so, I think, so needed and so powerful. And, you know, first of all, I wish you all the best because I really think you have something here, and hopefully people, our folks, will begin to open up. And because, you know, I was working with a photographer some years ago, and she was talking about she and her boyfriend were breaking up, and they were breaking up because she had issues, he had issues, baggage, and so forth. And she made a statement that I never forgot. She said, we spend the majority of our adulthood getting over our childhood.
Yes.
You know,
that is so true.
You know, or whatever it is that we have not, you know, addressed. So, ladies, with your respective platforms, what brought you together? How did you meet, collaborate, to come together to produce this show?
Well, we're actually
Go ahead, Kierra.
We've been friends since middle school, so we are very well acquainted with each other. It's just, and I'll say maybe in the past 8 years or so, as we both became leaders in our respective grief communities, we started to see parallels, not just with the different areas that we serve, but also your everyday forms of loss that we experience in life. And one day I actually text Chenee, and I'm like, Chenee, have you ever? And it was kind of random, but not random because I do everything with purpose. But it appeared kind of random. I was like, Chenee, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And her response was like, girl, yeah. So so we went from there, and I'm not, when God gives me something, I'm not okay, let's do it next year, or, give me 5 years to plan. No, I'm like, girl, we have to get started. Let's do this. And one day, Survival Radio Network came across my screen. I'm like, that's it. Because we had talked about it for a couple of months, weeks, and we just weren't abreast of how to get started or what needed to be done.
Yeah, we were kind of overwhelmed.
Once you start researching, it's like, wow, that's a lot of work. So we're like, maybe not. And then with Survival Radio Network, I mean, it was the perfect platform, the guidance that we definitely needed. And we know that, our generation and our culture, we need to discuss this. That, when you lose your job, you need to grieve about that. When, your relationship doesn't work out, you can't just move on. You have to discuss or address the grief. Right. So we wanted to go beyond just the grief that we all think of when it comes to loss of life, but we also want to address a lot of the other forms of grief that just comes with loss and hurting that we experience as we live life.
Wow, and you all definitely come to the right place because Clark and I, we were talking. I guess it was a couple months back, and he was a guest on the show. We were talking about Survival Radio Network and reaching out to individuals who are interested in starting podcasts. The support, that you get, the encouragement that you get, the resources, all of those things are here for you if this is something that you desire to do a podcast, to do radio, then the tools are here that you need to do that. So you all have come to the right place. You have a wonderful, wonderful platform with and I love the title. Good grief, girl.
Yes. Actually, the title was a play on our Southern roots. Because you know how you tell, especially our grandparents, if you tell them a story, they're like, good grief, girl.
Yes.
That's the response. So, we kind of played on that along with we actually are discussing grief. But it's just sometimes things are unbelievable. Like, I can't believe I went through that, or I can't believe he did me like that, or, things of that nature. So it's definitely something that we can grow with.
Yes. Exactly. And share with the audience what day and time the show is on.
Okay. Chenee?
Monday evenings, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m.
Okay, so that's Monday. So, ladies and gentlemen, you hear that Monday evenings, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. So it's the same time frame as the Paula G show. It's just on Monday, so y'all can remember
Monday,
that.
Right.
Yes. So
and we can be reached at goodgriefgirl.com.
Okay. Goodgriefgirl.com is where they can be reached. Ladies, thank you all so much for joining me. You are welcome at any time. If you want to share, anything, just reach out. Much love. I can't wait to meet you all. I know our paths will cross somewhere along the line.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, Monday evenings, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Good Grief, Girl, with Chenee Gilbert and Kierra Sunae Taplin. We thank them so much, and we wish them all the best. Y'all reach out. Y'all support. Okay? All right, we are going to break, and when we come back on the flip side, we will be speaking with my second guest, and come Saturday or next week is a big day for her. We're going to talk about that. This is the Paula G Show on Survival Radio Network. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a moment.
I am voice talent Paula G, and I would love to be a resource for you. Whether it's an intro, an outro, a commercial, PSA, tag, or more, consider Paula G the next time you have an audition or voiceover need. Email paula@paulagvoice.com. And remember, it's the voice that counts.
Looking for a cafe with a home-like appeal where all who enter feel like they are part of something? Visit My Coffee Shop, located in Eastlake, Atlanta, Georgia. MCS has a full breakfast and lunch menu, offering both hot and cold options, and is home of the amazing basil lemonade. But don't forget their assortment of freshly brewed coffees. Come on by at 2462 Memorial Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30317. We're pretty sure My Coffee Shop at Eastlake will become your coffee shop, too.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust.
SRN Survival Radio Network.
We are back. This is the Paula G Show right here on Survival Radio Network, and you were listening to Groovy Smoothie. And indeed, that was groovy, and it was smooth. Well, my next guest this evening is on a mission. She was driven to be a lawyer by a Human Rights Watch report that revealed unacceptable practices and human rights violation within the juvenile justice system in Louisiana. She has spent the last 20 or so years involved in system reform, and she's working to improve the local juvenile justice system in her area. And on Election Day, October 12th, she is seeking the position of juvenile court judge of East Baton Rouge Parish's Division B. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Paula G Show, the phenomenal, we're going to claim it right here, right now, Gail Grover.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. That was some introduction. I am so glad to be on the show. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And I'm excited to have you. It has been a minute, and I have to give my associate producer, Courtney Denise, a shout out for the suggestion of having you to come on and share your platform. So, you know, and let me just share a little bit. I've worked with young people over 20 years, but I'm a professional school counselor by trade. So, you know, my frequent flyers were always my at-risk youth, and I now no longer in the school system, but work with at-risk youth, most of whom are in my classroom through a court order. You know, they got ankle monitors, the whole bit. So, you know, I've seen some things that I just, oh gosh, it just hurt my heart with some of these young people. So, that's another reason why I'm so excited to have you on. But share with us and share with the audience, first of all, a little bit about your journey of what brought you to this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I am here in Louisiana by way of the military. I'll start there. I served about 8.5 years in the United States Army, and my last stop for our family was here in Louisiana. And so at that time, I got out and went and got my undergraduate degree in political science here in the state of Louisiana. And then I was afforded an opportunity to attend LSU Law School in 1999, and I have not looked back. As I was entering the law school experience, our state was undergoing a revelation of how we were serving our kids who were in the juvenile justice system, and it was not a pretty picture that was being at that time. I had 3 kids of my own, all under the age of 8, I believe, at that time. So hands are full. My heart has always been towards kids. And so I'm thinking about the conditions that were listed by this Human Watch organization, and then a subsequent Department of Justice lawsuit in 1998. That just drew me in, really, and I think my passion about young people and my connection with dealing with kids would not let me shake that. And in fact, after graduating law school and doing a year of a judicial clerkship, the question was posed to me, what do you want to do? And without hesitation, without second thoughts, I actually wanted to go to the district attorney's office here in East Baton Rouge Parish and work in the juvenile section, which is, I was blessed in order that I was able to do that. I was actually hired and able to move into that section, and it has been an amazing journey since that point in time.
Wow. And the position that you are seeking is juvenile court judge.
Yes. Our system here, we have 2 jurisdictions, or 2 courtrooms, Division A, Division B, and our division, our judge retired almost a little over a year early, and so this seat is vacant, and so I decided that I would throw my hat into the election, and so here we are. And I've run for this position before when it was filled, and so now this is without an incumbent, and I bring with me all the things that we've been able to accomplish since graduating in 1998 up to this point.
Wow. What are can you share with us some of the, when you're elected, some of the initiatives that you have, some of the things that you'd like to accomplish?
Absolutely. My platform is really juvenile justice reform, because we have been doing this work now for so long, and we've been we're heading in the right direction. We're trending in the right direction. And so I definitely want to continue going in that direction, keeping our kids, and predominantly our kids of color, out of our juvenile system as much as possible. Unless it is absolutely necessary, we need to really focus on using our community-based resources, using our faith-based community. There's a great value in keeping our kids at home and not bringing them into our institutions. In addition to working with juvenile justice, I want to make sure we are working with our families, because indeed that's the key, man. When our families fall apart and break, then our community breaks, So we can't turn a blind eye to what is happening with our families who are connected to our young people, right? And then the last part of that 3-prong area that I really want to work in is the education piece. Our system doesn't necessarily have a direct prison to school-to-prison pipeline, but definitely the kids who are in our system have education issues. So we need to make sure we are addressing those issues that are connected to education because their future depends on it. So definitely working on those 3 platforms, and specifically, I did some bail bond work in some focus group with some parents that I want to continue as judge to make sure that our parents know that they're being heard and not talked to, but actually a part of the solution. They are included in the decisions that we're making about how we service our kids. Let me give you an example. We have, through my research and just through working in the system, we have kids who may be in detention who are eligible to go home, but our parents are not ready to take them home, and so they sit. That concerned me. And so looking at why that was occurring, we did focus groups with parents in order to understand and hear their voices. And you would be surprised at some of the reasons why they had opted to leave their kids. For instance, the landlord said, if he comes back, then I would have to move. Or not having the transportation to get to where our young people are. Or sometimes it's just grandparents who need a respite. They are just tired of raising the teenager and they can't handle that behavior. So it was a lot of reasons that really didn't have to do with community safety, that our kids were sitting behind bars, And so as judge, I want to connect our community resources to resolving some of the reasons why our parents are leaving our babies in jail, so that we can help the parents, but also make sure we're not keeping our young people, detained. So that's just a couple of things that I really want to touch base on as elected as judge, and continue some of the things that we already had in the pipeline with our juvenile justice reform.
And that is so encouraging to hear you say that is your platform, because I don't think people realize just how important all of those resources are from my vantage point of working with these young people. I see young people that can be successful. I work in a GED program. So they're in the program, and academically, they can be successful. But the other parts of their lives are falling apart, Gail. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Other parts of their lives are falling apart, and the resources are not there, whether it's the counseling, the financial, the housing, because what you speak of in regard to the parents is so, or grandparents is so very true, that the housing, the resources, the mental health, all of those things factor in. It's like there's so many things that are clouding the progress of an otherwise successful child.
Exactly. You hit on something that is very important right now, and that's using and understanding trauma-informed care and our advanced, and how that is needed when we are addressing the needs of our young people. There is so much trauma out there that our kids are facing, and they're trying to process it with all the other stimuli that's coming in through our social media. They're so exposed to the world, positive or negatively, they are exposed, and they carry the trauma that they have in their own daily lives. And so when we negate actually factoring that into behavior, then I think we miss a big point. And so they have what they call the adverse childhood experiences, the ACEs, and there's data and there's research out there now that, validate what is going on. We have research and data now on the development of our young people, and brain development and emotional and social development. And so when we try to deal with their behavior in a vacuum, then we end up doing, in my opinion, more harm than good, because those feelings don't go away. They manifest themselves in other ways. And so as judge, I want to support our school system, who's now trying to head towards the trauma-informed care. as well as our detention facility beginning to get the training on trauma-informed care. I think we can do a lot in helping to restore the identity of our kids. You know, a lot of times it's an identity crisis. They really don't know who they are and their value, you know?
Mm-hmm. That they don't have that, you know, that foundation, those things that we take for granted as adults. You know, those things as adults or baby boomers that we take for granted, they don't have that foundation on top of the trauma. That's the best word for that. On top of the trauma that they experience, you know, that it's far beyond what a 16, 17, 18-year-old, 15-year-old should even be dealing with. And, you know, you also touched on something that my previous guest touched on in dealing with deep grief and unresolved you know, grief and just all of these things, you know, that brings them to the point of where they're standing in front of you in a courtroom.
That's exactly right. And I think we have to look at the whole person and begin to fasten, even with our probation. As judge, I'm going to look closely on how I order probation for our young people, so that we are not setting them up to fail, yet there's an accountability piece that we have to maintain. And so I want justice and we want fairness, but as I've been saying on my platform, you're going to get it with a mother's compassion, you know, and you're going to get it with a believer's heart that people, and especially our young people, can be redeemed. So we can't afford to throw them away. We can't afford to institutionalize them and marginalize them, even if they're young and, you know, and they can't go vote and they don't bring money to the table. But we still have an extreme value in our young people that we have to acknowledge and we have to work with. Wow.
What would be, and this might not be a fair question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. What would be, in a perfect world, for Gail Grover, a perfect world, what would be available if you had a young person standing in front of you and you saw the potential, standing in front of you in court and you saw the potential in that young person, but they, you know, committed some sort of, you know, crime or misdemeanor or what have you. In a perfect world, what would you like to see that young person have access to? If you could be specific, what would you like to see them have access to that you feel if they had access to A, B, C, D, E, and F for this amount of time? I strongly feel that this young person would be able to turn their life around and be productive.
Right. Well, you know, in answering that question, what comes to mind is what I did when I was the director of the Department of Juvenile Services here locally, responsible for probation staff who were assigned to our kids who were on probation, who were on supervision. So if I had a kid in front of me, I would want them to receive what I asked my employees to give, and it was a 5-point service that I asked them, and one was to connect them. I want them to be connected to one trusted adult.
Trusted, keyword.
Whether that is coach, whether that is neighbor, everybody needs one trusted adult in their lives that they can communicate and connect with. I also want them to be connected to an educational venue. So whether that be the traditional school or whether that is an untraditional setting, they need to be able to be connected to education. The other piece is that their mental health and their physical health is taken care of. So some of our kids need, you know, substance abuse, mental health, behavioral health services. And so I would want that child to be able to be connected to the health that they need, the health services that they need, according to what our assessments are indicating. And then the other thing of the fourth is pro-social activity. I would want to be able to connect that youth to a pro-social activity so that they are with other youth who are doing positive things that have a supervision piece in place, a structure in place, but peer pressure is real. And if we surround them with kids who are doing things where peer pressure is positive, they are thinking and doing and behaving in a way that is, is helpful to them, beneficial to them, then that child has a better likelihood of succeeding. And then the last, if appropriate, that they're connected to some kind of workforce, or at least being groomed to be connected to some kind of workforce. So those, if a kid was set in front of me, that's what I would want. I would connect them, and the first being having that one person that they can trust, because that's their support system. That's their support system. I would always say, we can have a church, faith-based, something connected to the child, because most of the time it's a hard change, a hard change. When we can give all the information, but if the information of what we're telling families and kids don't get to the heart, and the heart changes about that, then the behavior is not likely to change. We change because of the heart, and our heart changes when we have relationships that are good and that are positive in our lives.
Well, we have spoken it into the atmosphere, the 5-point services, and we're going to trust and believe that since we have spoken it out into the atmosphere, like the dew in the morning, it will just rest upon all of those that it needs to rest upon, and that it will come to fruition, and that you will come back in a year or so as judge. And we'll have a testimonies about how these 5 points have manifested in the young people that have stood before you. So we're going to pray that over you, and I just thank you so much. You have just inspired me, because I'm going to tell you, in working with the at-risk youth that I work with, I work in the GED program. We have a workforce component to it. It just hurts my heart sometimes because these students don't have these other 4 areas. And because those areas are, especially that one trusted adult, that's so huge. That's so huge when you have a population of young people that every grown person in their life has betrayed them. To have that one person, That is, what I now am working with one of our local children boards. I call them crossroad kids. Because in any given day, any kid that we think, quote unquote, is a good kid, he's at a crossroads making a decision that can take them down the wrong road. And that's any of our kids, and that's how we have to view our youth, even the ones that might be in our system. They are still at a crossroad, and today they can choose the right path. That's how every day we got to come to work and not say they're on the wrong path and that's it, because every day it's a crossroad for all of us. And today that child, with help, can make the right decision and change the trajectory of his or her life. And so, and that's what I'm going to come to do every day and see that, this is the decision that is important for the here and the now. Well, we will continue to pray for your success and pray for favor, and share with the audience how they can stay connected and reach out, because we have listeners who listen to these shows, a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. And so we want them, whenever they listen, to be able to reach out and stay connected and support.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to give you is my website for my candidacy right now, which is Gail Grover for Judge.com, and it lays it out. It lays out 20 years plus of working with our young people and working with our community partners, because it does take more than one person to move these mountains, and our community have a lot of people who love our kids. And so if they check that out, they'll definitely be able to find out more and stay connected with me.
All right. Thank you so much. And is there any other social media or any other website that you'd like to share as well?
Yes, at Elect Gail Grover on Instagram and on Facebook.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Gail. We wish you the best. And let me just end this interview by saying you and I have something in common. We have absolutely amazing children.
Yes, yes, we do. I'm so blessed. And if you feel like I do, you're just so cool.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, we will stay connected, and if you were on social media, please feel free, Paula G Voice, to tag me in whatever it is that you're doing, and I'm happy to share. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Paula, for this opportunity. God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing. It's important for us to hear and to talk and to have these conversations.
Yes, yes. And the election day, just one quick, election day is October 12th. Is that correct?
Yes, October 12th is the election day.
Okay. So for those of you, yes, and that is Juvenile Court Judge of East Baton Rouge Parish's Division B. Their election day is October 12th, and I know some of you all will be listening to this podcast, well after that date, but make sure you reach out and support Gail and her efforts. Gail Grover for Judge.com. Also on Instagram, Elect Gail Grover as well. And I believe there's probably one more website, maybe, GailGrover.com, but Gail, Gail Grover, Grover. Make sure you reach out and stay connected. All right, we are going to take a quick music break. Perhaps our engineer's pick. Did I warn him? I don't know if I warned him. He'll find something. Engineer's pick. Listen to a little music. Commercial. Come back with my closing remarks. Great show today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Paula G Show right here on Survival Radio Network. We'll be back in a few moments.
This is Kierra Sunae of Healing Footprints Foundation and your co-host for Girl Talk That Heals over at the Good Grief Girl Show. You're tuned in to the Paula G Show here on Survival Radio Network.
And we are back here. Thank you so much for that shout out. Also, the music that you heard was from Brooke Alford. And it was entitled 22. She's been a guest here on the Paula G Show as well as Survival Radio Network. Thank you all so much. Our time goes so fast. Our time is up. But thank you all so much for listening to this power-packed episode. I think all of my guests were relevant in what they were sharing, just passionate about their platforms. You can go back and listen to paulagshow.com or paulagvoice.com. Clark Garrison, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us. And remember, the greatest conversation you will ever have is the one that takes place in between your ears. What are you speaking to yourself, and what is your I am? Until next time, embrace the journey.